Now, there we go. And I'm going to go straight to the Google Classroom section where I want to discuss some stuff that I noticed. You seen the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Yeah, I have been looking at some of the work that you've been submitting, and I'm noticing a pattern that we need to address in terms of how you were approaching the work. So let's go to the assignment so we could discuss some of those things. We're going to start with the strength. Now, because we're at a disadvantage in terms of the uh, hold on, let me 1 moment. Okay, let me see. Yeah, let's wait until the stream loads. Yes, while we're loading, because we're at the disadvantage of not having a face to face, the way you deal with the videos that is sent to the class, and at the same time, the additional reading and research that you're going to do is going to be very, very important as it relates to your painting. Okay, now I'm going to pull up the final piece so we can look at it and discuss some of the things that needs work. And you're going to let me know what you're having difficulties with, and what are some of the assistance you require. And at the same time, I will give you information to do some additional reading and studying of references to get practice. Did you look at the videos that would have been posted on the stream on how the brain works? The one on that was posted, let me see, on the 9th of September, the one on the neuroscience of brain. Did you look at that video?
Um,
Let me pull it up and show
how
you
to
which one I'm
draw
talking about.
still life accurately.
Let me show you which one I'm talking about. This one here. Did you look at? Did you study this one?
Neuroscience of learning.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole thing.
What?
I can't remember what was happening.
Hmm.
But I watched parts of it.
No, you see, when I send those videos, and that's one of the reasons why I would have asked that, because when I send those videos, let me see if my earpiece don't work better because your audio is a bit low. So struggling to hear you. Let me. Yeah. So that video was very important because there's some concepts there that you're gonna need to understand as it relates to the teaching and learning process. That's gonna go a long way in getting you ready for some of these challenges that we're going to face with your work. All right. So you're gonna have to make sure that you spend some time studying that video. But let's go straight to the work and deal with that now. Good. Here we are. Now this is the preliminary stage. And of course, you're familiar with that because you would have done it. But one of the concerns that I have with what was the guiding factor that allow you to choose this particular composition? You hear me?
Yes, sir.
What was the reason for choosing this composition?
Um, this composition. I didn't know if you want us to paint everything in the background as well. They seemed like it had less of a noisy background.
Yeah, I'm now hearing you clearly. Just now you sound like you've been 5 miles away from the microphone. So if whatever adjustment you just made there, stick with that because that is better. I'm hearing you clearer because I was worried about the audio. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, I didn't know if you wanted us to paint the backgrounds as well with all the stuff, so I chose this one because it had like the least noisiest background as well as it's not very complicated. At least I thought so.
The reason why I would have asked that question is because when we look at the final one, and just excuse the pace of the net there. That's just the reality of today's environment. So just excuse that. Yeah, no, that's not the painting itself. But if you when you look at the reference, one of the things that you had to do is remember because I would have sent a previous reference video in the classroom that outlined how you go about working from photograph. Remember that blog? You hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Remember that blog? There was a blog that I would have posted in the classroom that dealt with painting from photograph. Did you read that one?
Yes, sir.
And what did you gather from that particular blog?
So I'm gonna reacquaint myself with the camera word correctly.
Because the reason why I'm asking that is when I look at the way you would have approached the final composition, the jar with the cocktail or the stuff seemed to be somewhat floating. And then when we look at the background, it's almost like you really didn't give much thought to it. It's almost like an afterthought. You just put it in there. And I'm wondering what was the thought process while you were painting this particular piece. Do you care to share that, please?
Um, While doing this, mm, I don't know if you want us to put in everything in the background. Did you want us to put everything in the background?
No, but that's why I would refer you to the blog that I would have placed in the classroom.
Uh-huh.
And the reason I'm approaching it in this way is to show you the thought process that goes in the sharing of information on the screen,
Okay.
not on the screen, on the stream, sorry, that
Mm.
allows you to be prepared for the activities that will come after those information is shared. So when I'm sharing stuff on the screen, it's either one of two things, depending on the complexity of the activity that we're doing. I would either share it prior to and then share the assignment after, or I would share it along with the assignment at the same time, depending on the nature of the activity that we're doing. And that particular one without the paint from photograph was sent because there was some very, very good information in there that would have been useful to this particular assignment. And in fact, to much of the assignments that's going to come after this, because in some instances, we will be working from photographic references. And what we want to do, we don't want to be plagiarizing. Well, let me don't say plagiarize. We don't want to be copying everything as it is from the photograph. Therefore, from an artistic point of view, you're going to have to know what choices and decisions you're going to have to make
Mm.
to suit the composition that you're creating. You get me?
Yes, sir.
And that is one of the reasons why it is important when information is posted on the stream that you have to use the information. And usually when I post information, there's always an accompany I accompany by putting information whether I'm highlighting certain things that I need to focus on specifically, or I'm making a point where you need to zoom in on certain things to have a clearer understanding, because the choice that you would make is a good choice. And I can see glimpses, and that's why I'm here now in the photo section of the thing where I can actually zoom in to see what's happening with ice. I mean, you're showing some glimpses of good stuff there, but you really haven't developed this composition in the way that you could,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when you're working with composition like this from a point of view where there's some amount of realism in it, you have to take into consideration that the object and the environment in which it surrounds itself is going to be influencing both the object itself, which is the subject, as in this case, the glass with the cocktail inside, and then the background. So there's going to be some amount of reflection or colors bouncing off of each other. So some of the colors that you have in the background there, some of that brown should have been bouncing off on the glass. And the fact that it is a crystal or a clear glass, that's even more evident when you look at things
Mm.
closely. And then vice versa, some of the colors from the glass and the the the, um, the orange that's there should have been bouncing off in a very subtle way into areas, different areas in the background. And that's one of the ways in which you unify your composition. And it's one of the ways in which you allow your composition to stand out more. I'm looking at your use of colors to represent the areas of light and dark. And I don't think you would have really given it enough thought. So I'm going to have you talk to me about that and tell me what is it you were striving to achieve when you were painting this particular piece of work.
Hmm. When looking at the painting, the original photograph, it showed a lot of grays and some like the handle, parts of the handle, it had like a lot of darkness in there. I was trying to replicate that, but I don't know.
Are you comfortable with the painting process itself?
Yeah, but this assignment,
Mm-hmm.
I was pressed for time. I didn't see it till late. I don't know, like my phone doesn't notify me sometimes with assignments, or the Google Classroom does not notify me.
Mm-hmm.
I was pressed for time.
You see, when you're in situations like that, I would prefer you to reach out and say, well, this is the case,
Uh huh.
and ask for some extension, because you're not going to deny that for sure. But
Okay.
remember, when you submit, I have to grade what you submit. And if you submit stuff that is way below what you know you're capable of doing, then you see what you're doing to yourself in terms of your grade. And that is something I don't want you to get into the habit of doing, because what it does, it sets about precedent with the way you approach your work. And you need to take your work seriously, in the sense that whatever it is you're doing, you do it to the best of your ability. And even if you need to have a day or two of extension, you ask for that to ensure that you produce the best possible work. Because
Okay.
as I look at it, the construction of the glass, you could have done a better job of that, because it's not a complicated thing. It's a simple cylindrical object. And these are some of the things that you would have covered in basic design. And some of this here would have been evident. I'm not sure much still life work would have done in immediate painting. Some of those things should have been addressed. So those are some of the things I want you to ensure that you're paying attention to as you progress in the future, the way you approach your work,
Mm-hmm.
and taking into consideration that in any given composition you have to focus on the spatial relationship of objects. And in this case, because this takes the form of a still life composition, you're gonna have foreground, midground, and you're gonna have background, and that needs to be visible. If we were to look at the pictorial reference itself, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some of what I would have just said evident in the way that was addressed. And you can tell that this photograph was taken from looking down from an above eye level view, and the photographer is obviously looking down into the glass with the solution. And that's something that you also have to pay attention to when you're painting, because even though you're using a photographic reference, you still have to ensure that you take into consideration the context in which it was taken, so that when
Mm-hmm.
you start to paint, you're taking all of those things into consideration. You with me?
Yes, sir.
And if we go back to the photographic reference, and we're gonna be toggling to and through different things like this, because it's important. I think it's this one. Yeah, here it is. If we look at this, I mean, you can see what is happening there. You would have minus the second glass that is there, and I was wondering if there's a particular reason why you would have minus that particular glass, right? And the reason I'm asking these questions is because I want you to see some of the thought process that you have to go through when you're working. Because painting is not just looking at the picture and painting. You got to be thinking about things as you go through them. You needed to pay attention to the textural quality of um the jar, as opposed to the orange. That's the rind of the orange, and then the orange skin, and then the leaf, and then the textural contrast of all of that, as opposed to the surface in which it is resting on. Those are all things that you have to take into consideration when you're working. And when you take those things into consideration, what it does, it allows you to put a whole lot more into your painting. It allows you to bring out so much more, rather than just settling for what is in the photograph. So my advice to you as it relates to that is that you're going to need to go back to that blog, and you're going to need to read and see what are some of the uh, advice given as it relates to what you need to look for and how you need to approach drawing or painting from a photograph, because there are some key pointers that you need to take into consideration, so you're not just replicating the same thing that's in the photograph. Because I mean, why paint what is exactly in the photograph when you can just go and take a photograph of it itself, right? You get me?
Yes, sir.
And you're gonna need to do some additional work on color theory too, because um, I'm not very convinced with how you're painting in terms of the your use of colors, and that is something we're gonna have to address. So we're gonna switch quickly from that And we're going to go to the first piece that you would have done on color theory, because that one as well, I'm seeing some stuff there that needs addressing. So we're going to go there and deal with that as well. And if you look at this one of the first advice I want to give you with this one here is the way you photograph your work. You see the top here is narrow, and as you come down here, it gets wider. Always
Mm-hmm.
put it in such a way that it's either directly against the wall where you're going to take it. In this case, it's rectangular way. You're going to take it in a rectangular way, or you actually
Mm-hmm.
standing over it where you can do that. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
have the ideal situation where you're able to do that, you're gonna have to crop this out. Okay? But I don't advocate doing all of that amount of cropping, because when you do that amount of cropping, what's gonna happen? You're taking away from the work itself. But when you're submitting work, and please ensure that your work is square, because these works will be used to be posted in a virtual exhibition. And when we're doing the virtual exhibition, excuse me, I'm not going to post it like this. I'm going to edit it. And when I edit it, you're going to lose a whole lot of the work there. And in some cases, all of your signature, that's going to get chopped off for sure. So what you want to do is to ensure that you're taking the photograph properly. And if push comes to shove, you don't have the ability, or you don't have, because of whatever situation you're in which you don't have a proper place to take it, you're gonna have to make some compromise by doing the editing before you upload it to the final stuff to the classroom. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hearing you.
Yes, sir.
Good. So if we look at this one here, we can see some of the same issues that you were having in the previous one in terms of color and space, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
that a walkway?
Pardon?
Is this a stairway? This stairway.
Like a walk, like a pathway.
It's a pathway. Okay. You see what I'm looking at? You have ideas. The way you're executing the ideas, because if you look at these three faces or these three masks, it's almost like they're all on the same surface, and the tonal quality of the paint that you use is almost similar in all three instances. And if this is a walkway, what is going on with the background? What the background is supposed to be representing? Because that's one of the things that I was concerned about, thinking about what the background is. And again, when we go back to the one that we have just looked at with the still life, it's the same kind of thing reoccurring, where it seems like the background is just an afterthought. What was the purpose of the background in this case?
The artist that we had to study, Lam. Yeah, Lam. One of
Mhm.
his, I was looking at one of his photos, and he had sort of, I guess his background was a wall, and it had
Mhm.
this, the the color scheme was like dark browns and blacks, look very dirty. So I guess I should have thought that through, make that
Yeah,
something, because
yeah,
that's
and I'm
something
happy.
that they,
Sorry about that, and I'm happy you made that point, because the thing about it, whenever I send video references, or I upload specific paintings from artists, whether it's local or international, the whole idea is, more often than not, if I send the photograph itself, I will say be inspired, and I would expect you to just look at it from a compositional point of view, from a subject matter point of view, from the color scheme and that kind of stuff. But once I submit a video and you hear persons analyzing the work, it is your responsibility now to get into understanding what was the thought process that would have influenced the artist into the production of a particular piece of work or a body of work. What would influence the practice? So that when you come to your work now, the question you're going to have to ask yourself is whether what you would have just gathered from studying that painting or that video, how is it applicable to what you're doing now? Because when you're coming out to your work, you have to put it in a context of what is the message that you want to send. So it's no longer now where you're looking at what Wilfredo Lam was doing. You're looking now at what you would do based on the information that you would have gathered from Wilfredo Lam. You see where I'm coming from?
yes, sir.
And what that does, it puts you in a position where now you're able to work from a very specific point of view, because based on what I'm seeing from the two pieces that you have submitted so far, I know you have ideas and you have a message to send, but the way you're expressing it is where my concern is, and I see there is a weakness in terms of that theoretical basis that goes with painting, not just from how you mix paint and how you apply paint to surface. It's also how you execute and express ideas on a two-dimensional surface. And those are things that you got to pay attention to, and you're going to have to spend some time studying, reading, and understanding. And to that effect, I have some videos that I have posted on the stream this afternoon that I want to go through with the class on a analytical basis so that you can see what are some of the things that I hope for you to take away from it, and what are some of the things that you need to pay attention to. The other thing that I want to talk to you about too, just before we get into that, is your written work. I've been paying attention to the way you're using your citations, and I'm not pleased with how you're using the citations. Are you doing research methodology?
Sir,
Yes.
it's research method.
Okay. Are you doing research method as subject Zaya?
Pardon?
Are you doing research methods as a subject this semester?
No, sir.
You did it before?
No.
Okay. So what about the videos that I would have sent on the MLA format and citation? Did you study those videos?
Partially, and we also had to do MLA for uh African artistry. Artistry. Let's use MLA format too. So I had an idea.
You see them partially thing that you talking about, them partially thing gonna hurt you, you know. Because you see, here, if you see here, you don't need to put work site, you need to put reference or
Mm-hmm.
source. But if you're dealing with the element format, you have to put it's either reference or bibliography. In this case, it will be reference. And the other thing that you have to remember too, when you're doing that, you have to number the references. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And based on what I'm seeing here, and I don't think I'm wrong, the way you cite these videos, I don't think it might be the correct format. Because it just look like the links to the videos that you have here. There's a way in which you cite videos, YouTube videos. That is correct. And I don't think this is. Just from off the top of my head, I could be wrong. I stand corrected. But just looking at it, something tells me this is just a link. And that is not the correct way to cite it. And the reason why I'm emphasizing these things is because if you don't get the habit of doing it now, when you start doing your research paper and you start writing your research, you're going to fall back into the same old way. And it's going to hurt you at the then. So please ensure that you pay attention to those little things. And again, it goes back to how serious you use the information that I post on the stream. Now, I don't expect you to take in everything one time and maybe in a set day, but I would expect you to, over time, going back and returning to some of those videos to really get a clearer understanding of what is being said, because there's no way you're going to get everything one time. And that's one of the reasons why I would have posted that video on the neuroscience of learning, so you get to understand the importance of deliberate practice and the importance of the process of recording and retaining information and how the brain does it. Because if you don't take that into consideration in the learning process, then you're going to be missing a whole lot of stuff. You're going to be missing a whole lot of stuff. And at this stage, we can't afford to do that, because if we do that, it's going to hurt you in terms of your grade, and it's going to hurt you in terms of your ability to produce the best quality work that you could produce as a student. And at the moment, that should be your focus, producing the best quality work that you could produce. And in order to do that, you got to get the right kind of information. Okay?
Yeah.
Good. So let's go there. Let's go now into the bit where this is going to be general for everyone else who is a part of the stream, to make a note of why these things are being shared and how it is expected that you should use them and go about using them to be effective. Now, this here is a number of videos that I saw as I was doing some research in preparation for the class last night of this female Afro-American artist. And I felt that some of the things that she's going to be talking about is going to be important. Number one, you have a critique session coming up. You will be asked to talk about your work because now you recognize that and this is for the general class, by the way. I'm talking to the general class now. You've recognized that I've added a component where I said you need to add an audio and you need to do a video recording of your assignments now. The reason why I'm doing that is to get you into the habit of doing things in a particular way and becoming comfortable with speaking about your work and understanding how you must speak from a commanding position. What you will find when you listen to this artist is that you get to see the cultural influences in her work. You get to see why she would produce work with certain symbols and certain color schemes. You get to see what is her major objective in producing the work. And these are things that as art students and young artists, you must make a serious part of your study, because when you're going to paint or you're going to draw or you're going to sculpt, you have to take into consideration that you're not just splashing something or they will look nice for persons to see. There's an intellectual foundation that goes with it, and that is what you need to pay attention to. You need to take that seriously. The reason why I'm exposing you to these kind of videos as well is because I am expecting you, when you're talking about your work and when you're going to do critique, I'm expecting you to deliver information in a particular way with a certain level of confidence and a certain command of the English language and a certain command of what you're talking about in terms of what is it you hope to achieve and what is it you want to express about your work. And the only way you'll be able to do that and do that to the best of your ability is by exposing yourself to persons who master it and the persons who have been doing it effectively. And this here is the reason why I'm going to share these kind of videos with you. I'm going to speed it up. They're not very long videos, so we'll be able to get through them and we're going to be able to discuss them a little bit. So let's go straight into the videos and take it from there. This is the first one.
Making is this energy, I can't wait for it off press. I'm just a conduit. Whatever it is, I'm allowing work for me. I've been creating art since I was like 5 or 6 years old. I don't ever remember not creating. This is graduate school, and I saw printmaking. I really didn't know what it was. It's just this magical experience. It's really the best way that I can describe it. So I decided, one day I'm actually going to do that. I work in a lot of different processes. I work in processes. I work in drawing, I work in painting, I work with printmaking. There's sewing element that's in my work. So I bring all of these together in order to create a piece of art. Layering important in my work. Layering time, history, and all of that.
And I pause there before we continue. If you know what is going on there, in a little short space of time, she's giving you a clear idea of her command of her subject area. So she understands form and function. She understands the technical things that goes with the production of the work in the medium that she would have chosen. So she could talk about different techniques, and she understands the context in which she's preparing her work. And I'm saying to you that these are things that you cannot take for granted. You have to know these things. So when you talk about color scheme and you talk about composition and you talk about spatial relationship, those are things that you have to know. And the only way you're going to know is that you have to study them. Not just one time, not just 2 times. It has to be a consistent part of what you do. And the reason why I'm showing you this also is because it's going to assist you when you're dealing with the examiner. So that when you're speaking, the examiner is not going to be lost trying to figure out what is it you're saying, because you're going to be so clear and so concise that you're going to deliver effectively. The other thing that I want you to pay attention to is listen to the kind of terms she's using. She said she's a conduit. Persons who are not serious about their work won't use terminologies like that to describe their work. And that is what I want you all to focus on as students. You have to take seriously that intellectual aspect of your work. Don't take that for granted, because if you do, it's going to diminish the quality of the actual work that you produce. Because quality art is not produced in ignorance. It is produced from a position of knowledge. So please ensure you remember that.
these different things just laid on in my work. I also use a lot of symbols. In my work, I also use a lot of symbols. Is a circle. You see that shape throughout my work. Throughout my work. It's a symbol of the moon. It's a symbol of the moon and the moon and a lot of different cultures, particularly in African culture, represents my work. The women in my work are wearing earrings the majority of the work. So that's another way of bringing in that symbol.
And I pause here again too, because if you recognize it, everything that she's putting in her work is deliberate. There is a reason. There is a message. There is a connection she's trying to make, so that the images that she's composing is not just it's not just a woman anymore. She's emphasizing certain specific features because she has a message. And the circle there, you can see that even though she's dealing with the circle comes in the form of the moon. Then you have the earrings. Then you have stuff in the background. Then you have stuff on the face. So that there's variety. So that when you look at her work, you still get to see the repetition of the circle in each of the expression, but it's so different that you don't get bored and you don't get lost in the fact that, oh, there's another circle. Because the earring and the way it is represented is quite different from that of the moon, and it's quite different from that of the circle in the other instances. And I would urge you all to go back and to study this video carefully, because for 6 minutes, it's not going to take a lot from you, but you'll get a whole lot from it if you study this 4 or 5 times. And when I say study, I mean really pay attention and listen to her words, listen to what she's talking about, because there's a whole lot that you can get from this bit of information. That's one of the reasons why when I put videos out there, I always say study the videos. And the reason why I'm doing this way this afternoon is because I get the feeling that some of you are taking it for granted. You're all just looking at them one time. In some cases, you might not even look at the entire thing. And therefore, you're losing the message and the meanings that you can take away to really enrich the quality of your work and make your work better as students and young artists.
My work started off really being about reconstructing identity of African American women. Of course, you have the stereotypes of, the angry type or the club, Jezebel type. Media has set the tone for our identity of who we are. I feel like it's my responsibility to offer a different narrative of where we came from and the dynamic women that we are.
And I pause there again because I want you to recognize. Yeah, go ahead.
Your mic is making the video echo. I saw 2 girls talk about it as well. So when the video is playing, can you please mute your mic?
Well, the mic is connected to the laptop itself. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know because it's echoing a lot.
I can see. Let me try something else and see what's going to happen. But anyway, just before we continue, the point that I was bringing over there is to allow you to see that she's aware of current issues, and in our context, issues affecting Black American women, or deliberate knowledge or knowledge of understanding what is the purported knowledge or the narrative that is popular in society as it relates to media in different forms, and what is it she wanted to change about that. And for each of you, I know you have a story to tell. You have to ensure that you know your subject matter to the extent that when you talk about it, you can talk about it from a position of authority and not just from a position of, I just want to paint a figure or just want to paint a. No, you're painting from a position of authority.
I was really interested in having the viewer be able to walk into a piece of work. How do I translate my 2D work into 3D? All of the women I knew, I've interacted with them 5 minutes, some of them I've known all my life. I decided to make an installation that really honored who these women are. So there are 300 plates. They're drawn directly on the plates. I use lithocrayons to draw the material. The plates vary plates vary because they are actually plates that were given to me, donated to me, or they were found. Everything had to have a history. These women had so much personality and so much life. I didn't want to just walk into a store and buy a box of plates.
They are lawyers, they're mothers, they're teachers,
They're
they're
mothers,
activists,
they're
they're
teachers,
artists.
they're
There's
activists,
so many
they're
amazing
artists.
women in the world.
There's so many
I couldn't
amazing
draw
women
them all,
in the
but I
world.
wanted all of them to
I
be
couldn't
a
draw
part
them
of
all,
this
but I wanted
installation.
all
So
of
for
them
me,
to
the
be a
table
part of this
allowed me to
installation.
be
So
able
for
to
me,
bring
the
the viewer
table
in
allows me
so
to
that
be
they
able
can
to
sit
bring the
down and
viewer
read
in
the word
so
and
that they
talk,
can sit down
just
and
have
read the
conversation.
word and talk, just have conversation.
Was that better?
No,
The other
it's not.
one,
It's not. It's
it
not
was not
better.
better.
It's still echo. No, it was echoing.
That's a technical glitch that we're gonna have to deal with for now. I'm gonna have to figure out why that is so, but we're gonna have to progress nonetheless. I paused there because a couple of things I want you to think about. This particular installation aspect, it's a brilliant idea that we can associate with a major task concept. And the reason why I would have paused there, I want you to see the guiding principles that allowed her to go with the plates, and not just any old plates that had a meaning associated with it. Then you also look at the way she would have gone about expressing her idea. She would have gone with installation. Remember, she's a printmaker. But look at what she would have done. She would have transferred those stuff that is traditionally placed on a paper surface onto plates, and now she put the plates on walls in a particular arrangement. And what she wanted to do was to celebrate Black women, not just any old Black women, but Black women of substance. And then when you look at the environment in which she would have displayed it, there is the table with the chairs. And she would have placed the table with the chairs there as a form of an invitation so that when viewers walked in, they feel comfortable enough to pull the table out, sit down, and have a conversation around the table. Because usually in a good family environment, the breakfast table is always a place where lots of dialogue and conversation takes place in a traditional setting. In contemporary times, it's kind of vary now, but because we're so busy, we do so much. Not many of us get a time to sit and do that dinner around the table or breakfast around the table kind of stuff. But I'm showing you how she's thinking things through and how it influences how she expresses her ideas. When you are exposed to things like this, it puts you in a position now where when you start thinking of painting for a particular topic area, or maybe coming up with an idea for your major task, now you start operating at a different level because you have so much more in terms of things that you can reference. And by seeing something like this now, it's not that I'm going to say, well, okay, go take it and just run with it. But then what you want to do, you want to see how she's thinking everything through. What influenced her? What is the message? And if you notice, the background is white, and the contrast between the dark prints and white background adds a certain effect to the quality of the environment and to the quality of the installation. And I'm sorry Robert is not here because I think he said he's thinking about an installation. This is something that you can look at, and not just to run and copy, but to listen to the thought process that goes into the production and the influencing of the production of the work, because it's very, very important. And these are the kind of thought process I want you to have as students. And I want you to start thinking in this way. And I guarantee you, when you start doing that, the level and the quality of your work is going to be different. And it's going to be difficult for somebody to look at your work and say somebody else is working like you. And it's going to be difficult for anybody to plagiarize you, because the thoughts that you're going to have, it's not possible somebody else to have. It's not. And even if they copy you, their work is going to be substandard. I can guarantee you that.
Sir, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you think that in a work of art it is best to express your emotions or to paint your culture, ancestral culture and beliefs?
No, that's the personal choice. As you see in our case, and when we get to the other two videos, you will see what are some of the additional factors that would have influenced the production of our work. Right?
Mm-hmm.
In your case, it doesn't matter. All I'm saying is
It
what this is
doesn't?
asking for. whatever aspect of your life you choose to focus on, ensure that you have substantial information and ensure that the way you're expressing it is the best possible way that you can express it. So when persons look at your work, they can get the message. Because remember, art is not just about decoration, it's a medium to convey a message. And when you are painting and you are drawing, you have to ensure that you're paying attention to a message that you intend for your viewers to get or the viewing public to get. So you have to take that seriously. And that's why you just can't just slap stuff on the surface. So you're gonna have to read, you're gonna have to research, you're gonna have to understand things, and you're gonna have to sit down and work out whether the approach that you're using is the best possible one to express the message as clear as possible based on what you're trying to say to your audience.
Okay, so take for example like an abstract painter's work, right? Do you think people would directly get that message with abstract
With
work?
abstract painting, no, with abstract painting, in some cases, what they do, they draw the viewer in based on how they use the elements and principles. So in a case like Pollock's
Yep.
work, you're going to be drawn into Pollock's work by the technical approach to work, the dribbles and the drips, and the color scheme and combinations that you use is what is going to draw you in first. And then when you look at the title, then you must start searching for things. And that's what you have to understand with those conceptual works of art. In some cases, the artist or the art will draw you in first based on the surface qualities. And the surface quality will be the elements and the principles and how they are being used. And then you get into the whole thing now, then is it when you start doing your individual research and you understand why the artist would have produced the kind of work that would have done. And it's important to understand the societal element in the production of works of art. You cannot really appreciate a work of art if you don't understand the societal context under which it was produced. And in some cases,
Okay.
you don't get that from just looking at it the first time.
Okay.
Who are these women? What are they about?
Who are these? What are they about? What contributions are they making to society? Those are the conversations
Love
that
for what I
we
do is what drives me.
My love for what I
I
do is
love
what
art,
drives me.
and I think I could explore.
I love art, and
I
I
plan
want to
on bringing
explore
other mediums
different
into my
mediums.
work. I
I
don't know
plan
how
on
or
bringing other
when,
mediums
but
into
I
my
always
work. I
believe
don't
and
know
I'm
how
always
or
open
when,
to it
but I
happening.
always believe and I'm always open
I
to it happening.
refuse to believe that I
I
can't do
refuse
something.
to believe that I can't do something.
I think that allows me room to grow.
I think that allows me room to grow.
Questions before we go to the second one? Any questions, comments? No? Okay, let's move.
Yeah, there's a comment. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Hello? Yeah. Out. Never mind.
And of course, if the feedback is still there, I apologize for that. But if I go to start it out, that's going to take too much time, and I don't want to take away from our time with that. What you can always do, the videos are there. You can always go back in your own personal time and peruse them. And what you should be doing at this stage, though, is to be jotting down some of the things that I'm emphasizing and I'm suggesting that you should pay attention to, because it's going to be very important. It's going to be very helpful when you're producing your work.
Hi, I'm Delita Martin. Welcome to Black Box Press.
Hi, I'm Delita Martin. Welcome to Black Box Press Studio.
I am always fascinated by artists. Studios and art spaces.
It tells a lot about the artists and how they work and how they create their works. I thought we'd start off today with a studio. Black Box Press was built in 2016. Since we've done one edition to the studio. This space here was actually the first space that we did. And it's divided up into sections, more of an open concept So the library, the spaces usually kind of function as multi-functional spaces. So this is my library, media space. I collect a lot of books. I love reading art books, as you can see.
And this goes back to a point I would have made earlier. If you're going to be effective, if you're going to be as confident and as bold as she is, it's not going to come from just, oh, she just got one in and she got good. No, it comes from reading and exposing yourself to quality information and to examples of how artists talk about their work, how they go about incorporating their ideas in their work, how they produce, and what are some of the factors that contribute to that. And you have to recognize and you have to appreciate that you cannot leave or neglect that intellectual aspect of your work, because if you do, you're going to be producing poor quality work, whether you want to admit that or not. If you're going to produce work of substance, you have to have examples of what work of substance looks like and what were some of the contributing factors that allow artists to produce that. And I don't know any outstanding artist who have produced who is not reading, who's not exposed to quality examples of other quality of works of art. I don't know of any. But if you do, you can let me know. But I don't know of any.
In the library, there's all types of processes, books on different drawings, printmaking, sculpture, ceramics. I'm inspired by a lot of ceramics. I'm inspired by lots of things. Lots of good reading in my collection. I started art at a really young age. I think I was around 5. When I first decided I wanted to be an artist. I like my childhood really growing up in art school. My father was a painter. He did drawings all the time. Poets in my family, writers, poets in my family, writers, lots of storytelling. So I was always encouraged to be creative and always supported in my love for art. So art was just always something that I did. I don't think I chose printmaking. I think printmaking chose me. Undergrad, I wasn't really I didn't really have an understanding of what printmaking was. I didn't understand printmaking was to make you have to have for the students to make you have to have certain students. But I remember coming into the department and watching Dr. Vigors, Harvey Johnson, Bernie Hudson, Harvey Charles Gray produce a print, a lithograph of an edition of Dr. Vigors, and I sat there and I watched them do this magical dance, this process. And I knew this was something that I wanted to learn, something that I wanted to take on my own practice. So it wasn't until years later that I started wanting to go back to school. And I went to go for printmaking. I think it was at a critical time in my career because I felt like I had pushed drawing as much as I could. And, how do I take my drawing to printmaking? And it's a natural fit. So instantly my graphic stencil became a carving tool. My paper became a wooden block. It was a natural transition for me, and I instantly I'm always collecting patterns. I will go to a fabric store and take things with patterns and partial patterns, or I'll take some trees and they're wearing an article code and it has to be a pattern, and I'll take the I come down to pattern, the partial pattern, or I'll change the patterns. For the most part, I have a collection of patterns that I haven't gotten around to working.
And as you can see from that, I mean, you have to have an eye for things as you walk around, as you explore. You have to pay attention to little things along the way that others might take for granted, because it plays an important part in the quality of work that you produce. And that's very important. And I think don't just see this as an interview, but look at the little nuggets that she's sharing in terms of things that would have influenced her work, and why is it that her work will be different from other printmakers and other Black female artists in the US.
I'm in the studio. I rarely listen to music. I won't say I never listen to music, but it doesn't happen a lot. I mostly listen to lectures, audiobooks, poetry readings, artist talks. While I'm listening, I write down notes, phrases, questions, and I think about these in relationship to my work. And for me, it's like a constant dialogue that's happening so that I can explore my work in a different way than the ordinary.
And I pause there again because traditionally most persons will say, okay, I work in music, but they listen to the audiobook aspect and relate to, because that's something that I do a lot of when I'm working. There's always an audiobook that is going on in the background, and it doesn't necessarily have to be art related, because remember, your brain retains information from a subconscious point of view. So when you're working, even though you might be focused on the painting, And we know that we can't focus on two things at the same time. Your brain is so powerful that it's soaking up the information. And at different times, things are going to register. You're going to stop and pause and listen. So I stop there to help you to recognize that you don't always, if you're working, have to subject yourself to listen to music, because maybe that's what most persons seem to think that you should be doing when you're working as an artist. You can clearly see that there's someone who does it differently. And things like audiobooks, maybe a documentary that is going in the background while you're working, all of those things could be a factor while you're working, because what you're doing, you're gathering information all the time. And it goes to show the process of information and education is ongoing at all times. And if you continue to make it a consistent part of what you do as an art student, I guarantee you're going to be a better student. You're going to produce better work. You're going to be able to speak better, because you would have been exposed to so many examples of persons talking about their work, about explaining their work. So when your turn comes, you're not going to fumble, because you've been exposed to these things so often. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want you all to take for granted this new approach that I'm using, because it's different from what I would have done last semester, or it's different from what I would have done if you would have been in my class previously, because I am always seeking ways and means to help my students grow and grow to the best of their ability. And when I post your stuff online, persons must take a step back and say, wow, because you must be that good. And I'm giving you the resources to be that good. You got to take it and you got to use it.
I don't sketch before I start a new work.
I don't sketch before I start a new work. I don't do any type of prep work before I start. I do have a million sketchbooks that I keep in the studio, and there may be one or two drawings in each one. I think I collect sketchbooks because I love the
Note she's working from a reference there, right?
And I just love books.
And I just love books. My preference is to just go straight to the final sheet of paper. And this allows me to not only tell a story, but also record what I like to refer to as the history of the work. Those stray marks that you find on the paper, the ghost marks from where I've erased, all become a part of this visual language that tells.
And in the last video that we're going to look at, you're going to get to understand the story behind these embroidery and these stuff that you see, those pieces of fabric. The other thing that I paused there for is for you to see the circles as a dominant part of her composition, but it's dominant in the background, and then she's drawing on top of that surface. So it's different. So when you understand now what is your main mode of expression and what is it you're trying to express, it dictates how you approach things, and you're going to approach things differently from anyone else. Would you find examples of other persons working with circles? Yes. Would you find them working with circles the way she's working with circles? No, you won't. And those are the things that I want you to take away from this afternoon session, that whatever it is that you're working with, ensure that you have a passion, ensure that you have an intellectual base that goes with it, so that when you start producing, your work is going to stand out. Your message is going to be clearer, and there will be no doubt about your certainty about what you're doing.
A complete story and history of a work.
Complete story and history of a work.
In my earlier works, I would simply draw patterns and images on two separate sheets of tracing paper, and then transfer those to my final paper. Now that the works have become much larger, I have to use a projector and work to scale, and using the projector as it relates to placement doesn't always fall into the right place. So during these times, or during this process of the drawing, scale is more important secondary. So I look to challenge myself and take a deeper look at the drawing, and take a deeper look at the drawing, and just use the information that's given to me.
And I pause there again too, because traditionally, and this is something I've always encouraged students to be open-minded about, she's using tracing paper. She would have talked about using projector. Don't ever limit yourself to make it seem as though, oh, just because I'm in the art school, I got to draw this thing from observation. But if you're going to use those tracing mediums, it doesn't mean that you should neglect your drawing ability, because it's clear that she understands that. But there are times when, because of time and maybe because of the message that you want to send, that you don't need to go that traditional route. You can actually trace your stuff. And this is one of the reasons I want you to expose yourself to information, because when you do this, you have so many options in terms of approaches that you can use. And then you use the one that best suits you within the context of your work and at the moment that you're producing a particular piece of work.
And place onto the work.
When I was younger, I used to help my mother with the quilting. I was in charge of cutting out the fabric into squares and then folding them until she could stitch them into place. As we worked, she would tell me stories about her family, stories about where she grew up, stories about my great grandmother, and I felt like she was piecing together my history. And when I looked at my own work, I realized that I was piecing together the stories and histories of the women in my work. So stitching naturally became an important part of my process. I made patterns with tracing paper. I then used decorative papers and fabrics to create clothing and garments for the figure. This is probably one of the most exciting layers of the work. You get a chance to explore pattern, color, texture, bringing together the work in a way that glorify the figure and marry the patterns to the veilscape.
I pause there again because do you have examples of persons who use fabric on painting in our school or in our environment and paste stuff and things? Yeah. Do you have persons who will be able to explain it in the way she's explained it and explain the reason why she's doing it the way she's doing it? No. And that is what is going to separate you from the regular student or the regular person, because you have context behind what you're doing. You're not just doing it for doing its sake. So if you're going to put fabric, you must know why you're putting the fabric and the reason for putting the fabric and why you put it in a particular way. And these things are very important because it shapes and molds you and the way you produce your work and the way you go about studying and gathering information for the production of your work.
All the stitching in my work is done by hand. My grandmother taught me one stitch, which she called tacking. And this is what you see in my work. I don't really have a particular way of stitching onto the work. There is one constant in the process, and I do a pre-punch on one of the holes, and I freehand the other. This makes it a lot more manageable. Sometimes if the work is really large, I will roll it halfway and then secure it with clips and finish stitching that way. But overall, there's no right way to do it. For the most part, I just have to be creative. My early works were inventive. I like to refer to them as spirit women. These women embodied womanhood. They are a compilation of my grandmother, sisters, the lady on the street, all of the women who influenced me, helped to raise me. And I continue to use the spirit figure in my work. But I have also more recently begun to use models as well.
I hope you paid attention to the color scheme there as well, and how the use of values plays an important role in our expression. Very, very important things to pay attention to.
I don't think I choose my models in the traditional sense. It really is about connecting with the model. I may be having a conversation with someone and the connection that happens, or I see someone in the room, they have a spiritual presence about them that I'm drawn to, and I'm compelled to ask them to model for me. I never really know what the person is really modeling for. I just know I have this connection and I want to photograph them. And they will be placed.
And I want to pause there again too, because Minerva, I have a sneaky feeling that some of these things will be able to put some really good ideas in terms of what you can do for some of the stuff that you plan on doing for your major task and your work with figure study as well. Because if you look at what she's doing there and how she's using her composition, her color scheme, how she's incorporating things, there's some magical stuff happening. Is the figure been overused? Yeah, but the way in which she's using it is totally different. And that's one of the things that you need to remember. When you are going to be working, you're not going to create something totally new, but it's the way in which you express it that's going to be different from everybody else's. And in order for you to get to that place, it means that you're going to have to read, you're going to have to research, and you have to know exactly what is the message you're striving to send. So you definitely, I know definitely you talk very good stuff from this here.
The pose should be the background will be.
And note also, the figures are in proportion because they're realistic. And that's something I always say. If you're going to go realistic, ensure your figures are in proportion. So you can't question whether she knows what she's doing, and put figures that are out of proportion is not taken away from the quality of her work, because when you look at it, you're drawn into it, you get to appreciate it greatly because you can clearly see that these figures are proportionately drawn or painted. And that is something that you have to remember. If you're going to go the realistic route, don't make mistakes with proportion, because it's going to take away from the quality of your work.
Later as the work develops.
Pattern background is what I like to refer to as the veilscape. It's the spiritual world made visible.
The figure in the pattern marrying our spiritual spaces and how we transform into the spiritual other. I do consider my work universal. I think that my work is part of a larger story. And whether you're a poet, a visual artist, or a musician, you have a story to tell that fits into this greater conversation, this greater story. I use a lot of common objects and
I use
patterns
a
in
lot
my
of
work to
common
form
objects and
visual language.
patterns in my work
The
to form
birds
a
in my
visual
work
language.
represent the
The
human
birds in my
spirit.
work
The
represent the
circle
human
represents
spirit.
the moon,
The
which
circle
is a symbol
represents
of
the
the
moon,
moon.
which
The
is a
circle
symbol
can
of
be
the
seen
moon.
in patterns
The
of my
circle can be
work,
seen in
sometimes
patterns
in the
of my work,
background, as well as
sometimes
the
in the
clothing
background,
draping the
as well
figures.
as the
This
clothing
pattern
draping the
represents
figures.
the female
This
presence
pattern
in my work
represents the
and
female
can be
presence in
seen
my work,
in the male
can be
portraits.
seen in the male
The
portraits.
background patterns found in my work
The
represent the
background
veil
patterns
made
found in my
visible,
work
the
represent the
space
veil
between the
made
waking
visible,
life
the
and the
space
spirit
between
life.
the waking life
The
and the spirit
masks in my
life.
work are
The
conduits for
masks in my
transition.
work are
They allow the
conduits for
women in my work
transition.
to transition
They
into
allow
the
the women
spirit
in my
world.
work to
In
transition
my
into the
work, this
spirit world.
transition into the
In my
spirit
work,
form
this
is the
transition into the
achievement of
spirit
a
form
higher
is the
self.
achievement of a
Another
higher self.
symbolic item I use
Another
is the
symbolic
hoop
item I
earring.
use
My
is
ears were
the hoop
pierced at a very
earring.
young age, and
My
I
ears
still
were
wear
pierced
hoops
at a young
today.
age, and I
This
still wear
style of
hoops
earring has
today.
become a
This
symbol
style of
of
earring has
inclusion in
become
my
a
work.
symbol of
Not only is
inclusion
the
in my work.
circle
Not only is
representing
the
the
circle
female, but it also
representing the
represents the
female,
notion of
but it
totality,
also represents the
wholeness,
notion of
and the infinite.
totality, wholeness, and the infinite.
Now, if you had any doubts about the level of confidence of this painter and or intellectual background, I think that the answer to that last question should be enough to spark an interest and a desire in you to really go deeper in the work that you produce. Because listen to how she explained every element that is a part of our work that is recurring. And you can see the circular form recurring in the form of a sunflower, in the form of a rose. So it's not just circles as in the traditional sense, it's circular objects that becomes a part of what she's doing, and they are there for a particular reason. And that is why, if I were to look at her work, the combination of those could become a major task. Simply from the fact that she used the circle as a unifying factor in all of her work, despite the differences in terms of women, men, whoever it is, the unifying factor there will be the circles, and those that body of work could be considered a major task. So when you're producing your major task, or when you're thinking about producing your major task, these are some of the ideas that you need to be thinking about. And I'm hoping now that you have a better understanding and a better appreciation of why you should study and why I encourage you to study these videos. And sometimes I know some of y'all are taking for granted, and that's one of the reasons why I decided I'm going to approach this thing this way this afternoon, for you to see that I didn't just slap this video on the live stream, the Google Classroom stream for no reason at all. I would have looked at it. I studied before, and then I realized these ideas could be rich for you as individual students to really make you produce the best that you could produce. And when I challenge you to produce your best, it's because I know you could do it. I'm not just challenging you, I'm also giving you the resources to help you to get there. But if you go and use the resource half, you just watch a piece of the video, or you just watch it one time and you really look at it in detail, and you don't strip it in the way I'm stripping it, and I can really strip it down a whole lot more, but I just wanted to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from, so that when you're going back to these videos, you will no longer take it for granted that I just dash videos on the stream there to occupy your time. No, I'm very serious when I'm looking for information for my students, because I challenge you all. If you want to earn good grades, once you use the information I give you, I know you're going to produce good work. If you don't use it, I will know, because you won't produce good work. It's going to show. And you can't produce what you don't know. It's that simple. And we're going to go to the final video. Maybe get that final video. Any questions, comments? This one is more of an interview, but in this interview, there's a lot that she would
Hello?
have said again. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Go ahead.
Hello? Yeah,
Yes, I'm
do
hearing
you
you.
think it's best? Yeah, do you think it's best, like, in a work of art to be universal, or focus on one thing?
No, the thing about it depends on what is it you want your viewers
Hello?
to it. Are you hearing me? Because I'm hearing you clearly. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, I'm hearing
Can you
you.
hear me? Yeah. It
Yep.
depends on the message it depends on the message you want to send, and that's what I'm saying. And that is where your research and your study is going to guide you, because you can't have everything in the work, and you can't express all the different perspectives, because as you can see, She was very specific.
Mm-hmm.
And when she wanted to focus, when she did the installation, look at the simplicity in the background. It was just the figures that dominated. And what she was focusing on there was to emphasize these great women that came from different backgrounds and who made different contributions to the society at large in terms of where she is from. But then in the other ones that we would have just looked at in the last set, it is much more deep and spiritual. So she's connecting experiences from her grandmother and quilting. And she's looking at the spiritual aspect of things. She's looking at the old concept of belief, where you're looking at the external, the spiritual world and the physical world. When you look at the difference in the body of work towards the end and the ones with the installation, you see that the message in which she wanted to send to her audience dictated the expression. So the simplicity with the ones with the plate, as opposed to the complexity with the ones that deals with spirituality and family influence and the physical and the spiritual world and all of those symbolism that goes with whatever she's talking about. So it depends on what is it you want to focus on. And when it comes to your major tasks, you're gonna have to narrow down to a particular focus, because you can't have everything, and then you're gonna have to ensure that you have the thing that is most important based on the message that you're striving to send.
But sir, can't you like, how would say it? Like you have like, say one of your team is like death, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can't you have like other factors that like to like for back it up or something, but it's still based under death, something like that?
Yeah, but if whatever, remember now, death is the subject. It's like a good sentence. You have the subject and the predicate. That will be a subject. The predicate will be those other things that helps to emphasize, if you want to focus on that to emphasize the focus on that. So for example, you could look at things like murder rate. You could look at things like health reason that contributes to death. You could look at the things like war that contributes to death. But it's still good. All of those things are the predicate aspect of it. But you, at the end of the day, it's all coming back to the major focus, which is death. So yes, you could.
Okay.
Any other question, comment? All right, let's go into the last one. Again, I'm going to speed. Oh, this one is a bit long. So we're not going to watch this entire one, because this one is a bit long. You're going to do that in your own.
Well, actually, her home. And she's a stained glass artist in Dallas, Texas. And she had a portrait that was done for her.
Let's just listen to the last bit of it, and then I'll wrap up. But as you can see, if you had any doubt about the quality and the pertinence and the substance of the video, I don't think you should have now, because I think there's enough that you would have gathered so far to really appreciate and see the need to go back and look at it and study them in your own time, because it's going to serve you well. Minerva, you there still?
Sense. I am interested in capturing the spirit of an individual.
Yes.
Okay.
In undergrad, I had the opportunity to visit an artist studio, well, actually her home, and she's a stained glass artist in Dallas, Texas, and she had a portrait that was done for her, or done of her, by Dr. Biggers. And you looked at the portrait and it looked absolutely nothing like her, but you could instantly tell it was her, and he captured her spirit and knew that's what I wanted to do. So from that respect, I am not a psychology major, so I really don't know how this works, but I think I learned more about my mother working with this body of work than I knew before. There's a certain understanding that I have now that I didn't have before. You know, we probably all have little mother issues everywhere, or family issues, but some of those things have gone totally out the window, and I'm not really sure the psychology of how it works, but I learned a lot about myself and, you know, where I come from and why I maybe do the things that I do. So there was a learning process with this as well. So it's kind of therapeutic in a way.
So we've been learning the story of the travels,
sort of learning the story of the travels for State of the Art, and when the curators came to various studios, could you share, was it Chad or Jen, and how did you bring them into your world and understanding of what you're doing?
That's a good story.
That's a good story. Well, first of all, I had no idea about the project itself. I was busy working on this body of work. I had this piece completed in maybe a half a piece done, and I received an email from Chad, and he wanted to know if he could come for a studio visit, and I said sure. And I knew who he was, and he's affiliated with the museum, but I didn't know anything about the project that was going on, so I was like sure. So he comes in and he says, well, is it okay if I video? And I was like, sure, go ahead. So we talked, and we didn't really necessarily talk about this work in particular, but I did talk about my process as well. So he left, and I was like, great. So a few months later, I was watching television late one evening, and my phone kind of vibrates, and I get an email, and then I started getting text messages. It was like, congratulations on the Huffington Post interview. And I was like, what? I quickly Googled myself, Stelita Martin Huffington Post, and I said, oh my God, this is the interview with Chad. And I was like, I called my husband, and it was at that point that I actually went online and started kind of Googling and found out about the project. And I was like, you don't think? And he's like, I don't know, they would have put it on, if you weren't going to be included. I was like, are you sure? I said, I'm not going to, I'm just going to block it out of my mind just in case it's not true. So I tried to, and I eventually got another email. Well, it was interesting.
All right, since it's buffering, we stop there.
The email was like, hopefully, we would
let's pause that there, and you're gonna finish the rest in your own spare time. Any questions, comments? Let me know. Give me a general wrap up of what you would have gathered from what I would have just discussed. I'm gonna start with you, Zoya, since you were the first here. General thoughts on what was discussed this afternoon. Anything that you need clarification on?
No, sir. My general thoughts are that we need to put more thoughts on what we use in our art and the elements, and we need to research and make sure that we have that intellectual background. Um, I need to look at the videos for myself because there was a lot of echo, but I could see and read parts of what was saying.
Minerva?
Well, from what I've observed, um, for me, it's hard to gather inspiration. And the way that they did it is like inspiring to me. So this video is like, well, this discussion, it actually revived something in me. I feel like there's a lot that I've gathered from it, and I could go on doing better in my painting and actually putting my thoughts and ideas out there in a more creative way.
I'm happy you made that. I'm happy you made that statement because and I'm gonna say this because we're a class, and I think we need to. Not I think I know we need to be drawing inspiration from each other. But I was very concerned with the direction that you've been going with, and I don't know if you've been reading some of the messages I've been sending you, but some of the work that you've been producing has not been of the standard that I've grown to know that you're capable of, and of recent it's been troubling to say the least. So I'm happy that you would have joined the stream this afternoon, and that it would have struck you in that way, because to have the ability to express and to have ideas that you want to express and not knowing how you can go about doing so is limiting, and it can affect the quality of your work and the consistency of your work. Because really and truly, when I'm going to do the analysis of the two pieces that you would have submitted for painting so far, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Because the one that you would have done from the influence of Wilfredo Lam, I'm really still trying to figure out what is it you wanted to say. And I was looking at your composition and how you put things together, and I wanted to know if it's the same person I'm teaching. And then when I look at the still life composition, it's like chalk and cheese, not just in terms of the technicality, in terms of how you apply paint on the canvas, but also in the way in which you put together the composition. And I'm saying that I knew from then, when I look at those two pieces, there's something that is not clicking, and you need to figure it out. You need to figure it out quick. And I'm hoping that this afternoon session would have allowed you to be able to figure it out more. But I feel that if you take the time to do more reading and more research, I mean serious research, those nagging questions, you'll be able to deal with them easily. Because it's not that we're going to have everything all sorted out. You got to read, you got to study, you got to explore, you got to ask questions. And if at any time something is bothering you, I mean, it is your place to say. I've been sensing it for a while now. I've been talking to your colleague. You can ask him. And I've been wondering what is going on, but I've just been waiting for an opportune moment to talk to you about it. But I'm happy that you would have brought it up yourself to recognize that you got to buckle down, because all of those ideas that you have inside that will be of value to society, it will be sad to know that you have them there and you don't express them properly. That could be of benefit to people. So I'm going to be looking forward to see what you're going to produce going forward after this session. But I can guarantee, and I reiterate again, when I put videos on the stream, folks, I study the videos before I put them up. And when I put them there, it's because I know there's something in there that's going to be of value to you, even if it has to do with the way you deliver. Go ahead.
Apart from adjusting mentally, there's physical adjustments for me, because handling brush and pencil for me now is a little bit struggling. I do have some nerve problem whereby I get like this trembling, and it's really hard to control the brush. So I've been trying to adjust to that.
Well, see, what you're going to have to do then, you might have to start thinking of alternative ways or alternative methods of applying your material or onto your canvas, and that might trigger something different in terms of your approach. So yeah, brush and paint is what we are accustomed to be using, but it doesn't mean you got to stick to brush and paint, because now that you're experiencing what you're experiencing, and I'm not saying to just give into it, but I'm saying maybe you could look at it as an opportunity to explore a different option that make things a little more dynamic. Because if you study the history of art, artists would have always gone into periods in their lives where they face challenges of a certain nature, and that would have bring out something different from them. Because I think there's some artists who, as they age, struggle with sight, struggle with applying stuff, struggle with using certain materials, and then they have to adjust and all these kind of things. And it's nothing new. So you're gonna have to find a creative way of really dealing with that. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Boville. Ms. Boville, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead. What's your takeaway from this application?
Well, to be honest, I enjoyed it. Oh my God.
Hello? While Ms. Boville comes in, because it looked like she would have lost connection. Yeah, she did. One of the reasons why I missed this kind of a session with you as a class is because I could send a lot of videos. I could do points in terms of what you need to look at, what you should be looking for. But it's a different thing when we're in a situation where we're face to face. When we're in a situation like this, where we're in the same place at the same time on the same stream, there's so much more that we can bounce off of each other. And that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping to get back to this space where at least maybe once or twice a month, we have a session like this where we either do a critical session or we do an assessment session of a particular topic or a particular technique. Because what it does, it allows us to be able to gain so much more. Because if I didn't take the time to explain how I want you to go down, how I go about breaking down the videos and what are the things I need you to look for, then I know some of you would have continued to look at those videos, just videos being posted online. And for me, that's not how I do things. And that's one of the reasons why I decided, let me do it this way, because originally I just wanted to speak to Zoya because I know I would have recognized that she had some issues that needs to be addressed. But I'm happy the others would have joined in. And I'm sad that Roberto is not here because I know that you will be able to get a whole lot from it too. But what I'm going to do, the video is going to be available online, so you could always go back and look at stuff. But I'm going to have to look at it first to see if the feedback is going to still be there in the recording, because if the feedback is there, it makes no sense we make it public like that. But it's going to be there for the members of the class to be able to see, because the link is going to always be available on YouTube, so you can always go back to it and go back to some of the ideas and points that I would have discussed and see if it makes sense or they're talking nonsense. And you can take it from there. Yes, Ms. Boville, go ahead. We were waiting on you. Whoops, we lost her again. Anyway, that's what I want to leave with you. I want to thank you for making the time to be here. And as you can see, the demands that I'm placing on you are not a lot, because for every demand I ask you to meet, I provide you with resources. Use the resources. Go back to that neuroscience video. It's not very long, but there's some brilliant points in that neuroscience video that would allow you to understand the learning process and the role the brain plays in that learning process. And when you come back and you look at the set of videos that we'd have just looked at, you will see how some of that is playing into the work that she would have produced. Because you could get to that place where you could talk fluently about your work, where you could speak with historical references and references to speak to show that you know what you're talking about. And that is where you need to be as an artist. And the only way you're going to get there is by exposing yourself to quality information and seeing examples of that on a frequent and regular basis. And I know you can get there. Put in the work. You're going to see the difference. Ask one another question. And by the way, Zoya, get in contact with Minerva and let her add you to the WhatsApp group, please, so that in the event of anything, we can always shoot a quick message there. Because it might
Sir, another question. If by any chance you feel like you could improve a painting that you posted already on the screen, can you go ahead and improve that painting?
Yeah, sure. Listen, remember, when you're finished with that piece, it doesn't mean that you're finished with it, you don't have to touch it back. Because remember now, after we had our critical discussion, you might have seen some things that you would have overlooked that you can go back and improve on, and you should do that. Yeah, you should do that.
But if you haven't had the discussion as yet, and you've handed in the assignment, and you feel like, okay, there's something that I could improve in this painting, can you go ahead and do it? And then you resubmit?
Yes, but what in that case, what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to inform me and say this is what I plan to do. And then when you resubmit, I'm gonna change the grade if you whatever it is you would have done is really made a big made a difference. I'm gonna change the grade, and then of course it's gonna think, because remember now, when I would have graded it for the first time, it doesn't mean that grade is cast in stone. We're an institution where we're dealing with creativity, and that's dynamic. And if you see something that could improve, well, yeah, why not?
Because I have been working on some pieces that I submitted already, and I want to improve them, and I'm currently working on that. So I wanted to know if I could resubmit or
Yes, but what are we gonna do though? You're gonna leave the old piece there, because what I'm gonna have that to compare to see what are the changes you would have made, and if it would have been thing, because essentially the whole idea of what we're doing here is about improvement. And you're gonna make mistakes along the way. You're gonna miss things along the way. And if you do your research and realize that you could do some stuff to really improve the work, then yes, the avenue will be there for you to do that, and you will not be penalized for that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, and we're gonna make this a more regular thing so that we can really get more out of our sessions and our discussions. I hope that you would have seen that I would have posted a number of exercises, assignments in succession, but you know that the dates are different. But the reason why I would have done it this way is to give you a heads up, so you can actually start doing your readings and preparation ahead. So the critical session, where you're going to be critiquing the individual work of your colleagues, I hope that you're preparing for that. And hopefully you would have seen some stuff from this afternoon that you can really use to add some quality to the critique section when that time comes. So have a good afternoon, and I'll see you next time.
Good afternoon, sir.